Hey everybody, it's the Man Master here. I'm doing a series based upon some requests that people have. I've known 3 or 4 people that I've known in a few in real life that have asked me, even like a relative that asked me about this. And it's about the death of metal in the 90s. They want me to do a full-on documentary and stuff, and I am quite interested in it. However, I don't have the resources right now to do that. So I decided to do the next best thing, at least for now, and do this this whole, hopefully that's not messing with the details here too much. So I've decided to do this like look at the past and what had happened before with regards to some of this subject. So of course the biggest elephant in the room, if you want to call it that, is Metallica, because they stopped calling themselves metal in the mid 90s and said they're hard rock, and then they acted like they were an alternative band, in their imagery and their merch and everything. So this is kind of a subject that is really relevant with trends and popularity and sociology and politics to some extent too. So I wanted to talk about it. People wanted me to do this Death of Metal documentary, and if I ever have the time and resources to do it, I will do it. But the next best thing now is to do a video series, and also I'll do like a playlist with all these videos. I've already done videos like this before, but I decided that it's a cool idea to kind of do more of them and then clump them all together. So this Miseducation of Metallica, this was on several like groups that I'm on various social media platforms that I saw, and I believe it's from like a musician magazine, or like literally the name musician. It looks like their format. I don't think it's Rolling Stone. It's some popular magazine. It might be Spin, So it was 1998. I know it was from then. And the thing was, when I first saw it, I was like, there's no way these are like this is so ridiculous. Like, I thought, at first I thought it was kind of like their playlist for the month or something like that. I'm like, oh my god, that's so cringe. And then I realized they said their favorite albums of all time, or so I think it's not their favorite albums of all time. I think it's kind of in between. It's kind of a mixture of things here, which doesn't really make sense. I don't know how they were asked these choices, but this is completely ludicrous in many ways, and I'll get into that. But I'm gonna give my whole dissertation on all these various albums and various thoughts on their inclusion. I'll read it first. Miseducation of Metallica. Metallica's recent or upcoming collaboration with the San Francisco Symphony and Garage Inc. The band's recent cover song fest begged the question, what do these guys really listen to? So we asked the 4 members for lists of their favorite albums, and not surprisingly, they came up with everything from AC/DC to Barry White. So we're going to start out with Mascara and Nail Polish era Kirk Hammett and his lists, and I'm going to talk about what I think about these choices. Now, I'm going to do a disclaimer here and say that I do like a lot of these albums. The majority of them I find actually pretty good. I haven't heard a lot. I haven't heard all of them, and I'm going to go into my criticisms of why I just think this list is so contrived. I think Metallica are a corporation. They were at some point in like 1991, 92. So they had a lot of things that they did in a very calculated manner. This is no exception, this list. And this is kind of how I see this list as far as like what the choices are made and everything. And that sounds really cynical and really messed up, but it's the truth. That's how I feel about it. So I'm going to go into this list. I'm not saying they don't like these albums or anything. I think they do, but honestly. But there's a lot of other stuff to go along with this too. So the first one is David Bowie's Low. Kirk Hammett is his top. Is that 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's 10. So David Bowie Low, good album. I like a lot of that period, that Brian Eno produced period of David Bowie. It's good stuff. Cool choice. Very hip choice for a band in the 90s though. The whole Trent Reznor, David Bowie collaboration was coming out and all that stuff. Second choice, John Coltrane, Blue Train. Not one of my favorite albums from John Coltrane. I actually like. Let's look at my albums. I like a lot more of his like free jazz kind of stuff, and I don't think that I think Blue Train, as far as it's like a Love Supreme kind of stuff, as far as I remember. Miles Davis kind of blue, and again in the same vein. I'd pick like Bitches Brew or something. A metal band should pick a metal musician should pick Bitches Brew, for Christ's sake. You know, I bet if John Petrucci, even at this period, when Dream Theater were like going more like alternative or whatever, he would have picked Bitches Brew himself. So whatever, take that as it is. Lauryn Hill, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That's really trendy, like '90s, like alternative / R&B kind of choice to make. You know, whatever. Yeah, I've never heard it, but I think I know. Is it she's from the Fugees or something? I don't even know. I don't even know enough about Lauryn Hill. Robert Johnson, the complete recordings. I think I have that on tape somewhere. It's great. You know, no problems with that from me. Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, same. It's great. Merciful Fate, Melissa. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Of course, I love it. It's one of my favorite albums. UFO Force, same. Great album. Michael Schenker and company, just, you know, they force it into your head, you know. Tom Waits, Rain Dogs. That's where, like, the late 80s, I think James Hetfield really got into Tom Waits, and he kind of got the other guys into that. So that's kind of, you know, it's kind of expected, but it's kind of interesting that he would pick that. Various artists, the Gershwin songbook, you know, more jazz-related stuff, which is interesting because could Kirk Hammett, you know, even keep up with jazz? He might actually have some chops that we don't know about because he just like dumbs them down for Metallica. That's my belief. I believe that. So he does what the corporate heads of Metallica Inc. say. Metallica Inc. Now we get to the James Hetfield choices. I'm going to say right now, the James Hetfield choices are by far the best of these choices in this list, because there's a lot of cool stuff, and there's nothing. I don't think there's one album. I even think Bone Machine, I've heard some of that, it was pretty good. The Tom Waits, other Tom Waits, pretty funny. So I'm going to say there's nothing wrong with this. Now, there is one glaring thing about it, and I'll get into that in a few minutes, of course. But you probably guess what that is. 1998, what was happening? Anyways. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Live Seeds, cool. You know, I've never heard that particular one. That sounds pretty cool. I like the Birthday Party, the band he was in. I'm trying to check more of that stuff out. Laibach, you know, anybody likes Rammstein or anything like that, you know, Laibach were the original ones. Opus Dei, or Day or whatever. Great band, great industrial, militaristic kind of orchestral kind of band. Awesome. Led Zeppelin remasters, yeah, whatever, you know. It's interesting. He picks Led Zeppelin. I always took him as like he always kind of bashed Led Zeppelin, like he liked them, like he said Black Sabbath. Just I love that more, you know. So that's a little bit weird, a little bit interesting. Maybe it was kind of the trend at the time in the band or something on the tour bus or some shit. I don't know. The Misfits, American Cycle. Now that's an interesting choice because that's a Michael Graves era album. So that's very strange that he would pick that. I find that really fascinating, honestly. Like, that's kind of cool. Like I said, this is the coolest list out of all of them. Of course, I mean, you would expect that. Honestly, he's the least trend hopping of the guys, and he actually does, in a way, he likes the edgiest stuff too, and in like a less of a hipster way, but like, you know, whatever. Nick Cave, it depends on what you mean by hipster, of course. If you mean like 1983 Henry Rollins spoken word, is that hipster or is that just like cool, cutting edge? I don't know what that, you know. Or is it trendy? Trendy hipster versus actual hipster, I guess that you can differentiate between those two. So here's the next one. Ennio Morricone, we expect that because he loves all soundtrack stuff. Fistful of Dollars. Reverend Horton Heat, Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Cool stuff, yeah. Rocket from the Crypt, same. Scream Dracula Scream. Thin Lizzy, the first. Is that the first? I think that's the first one, is it? It's a little bit of a weird choice. Tom Waits' Bone Machine. You have Bad Reputation or Live and Dangerous. I'm talking about Thin Lizzy, of course. I don't know. That's a weird. Maybe that's a box set. I can't remember if that's a box set or whatnot. So we get down to Jason Newsted. Now this is the most shocking one of all to me. This was the most like what? Because you always expect Jason Newsted to be the most metal, guy in the band and stuff. But this is like the most like weird one in a way, and like, it was a big surprise, honestly. Not criticizing all of it. I probably like James's more, and even Kirk's to some extent more. Of course, I like a lot of these choices too. So we have Black Sabbath, Master Reality. I think that's the second metal album, if I can look at this right, that's actually on the list, unless you count UFO, which is debatable. It's pretty funny. From a band named Metallica. Jeff Buckley, Sketches from My Sweetheart the Drunk. You know, kind of a hip, like I said, is kind of an edgy hipster choice. Earth, Wind and Fire, All and All. Cool, funky 70s R&B, whatever. Jimi Hendrix, Electric Ladyland. I can't dispute that. Los Lobos, How Will the Wolf Survive? I never heard that. You know, I know little of that band. I know they did some interesting stuff. Bob Marley, Catch a Fire. I can't deal with reggae very much, so I can't really get on board with that. That's just my thing. Massive Attack, Blue Lines. Is that kind of trip hop, or isn't one of those people, wasn't Portishead related kind of stuff? Yeah, I could probably get on board with that. Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, Texas Flood, cool stuff. Tom Waits, Rain Dogs. Another Tom Waits. That's a really strange trend in this article. Barry White Anthology. Maybe for his girlfriend or something. You listen to that a lot. Lars Ulrich, of course. You're going to have the most mainstream sellout crap possible, but you're going to have a couple of surprises and some cool albums too. But just to say, you know, obviously there's some crap in here. Not crap, but like the choices are crap from the drummer of the biggest metal band in the world. It's kind of like, what? Favorite albums of all time? Come on, dude. I don't believe it. So, and it's a little bit more antiquated than the other guys, which is kind of strange, like considering it was 1998. And a lot of these choices are like, what happened to your music? Like, do you listen to music? Like, do you just listen to the same albums over and over again? I should talk. I'm getting more into newer bands and stuff now, but there's a lot of, you do settle into like different things in your life and stuff. Sometimes you get out of listening to a lot of new albums. So he's the most naive. He has the most naivete about music out of all the guys. Obviously, that reflects in his lack of musicianship as of late. But sorry to say, I'm sorry to bash on Lars so much. I think he was brilliant, great back in the day. He's a great business person and stuff like that. So, and I would hang out with him. I think he seems like a genuinely amicable, cool, funny guy. You know, I'm not going to say that, but I just think his in relation to metal, he's been a detriment a lot of the time, but not in the ways like Sharon Osbourne or like people like that are, but that's a story for another day. So AC/DC, Let There Be Rock. I'd have to say that's my favorite AC/DC, honestly. Yeah, for real. And that is a great album. Alice in Chains, Dirt. It's a pretty solid choice. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue again. Why the more mellow Miles Davis? I don't understand. I do like Miles Davis, though, of course. Deep Purple, Made in Japan. Okay, this is where the favorite albums actually seems more plausible. Like, the question was asked to Lars Ulrich. Like, the other guys, like, I don't believe that these are their favorite albums, because they were asked, like, oh, Black Sabbath's first album. Like, James Hetfield's always said Black Sabbath and Diamond Head and all this stuff. It doesn't, or at least Black Sabbath. I don't know why he doesn't have it in his list. It's very strange. So I believe, like, this somehow Lars answered the question in the way that the article is originally supposed to be written. I don't know. It's really weird. So Deep Purple, Made in Japan. He's always said Deep Purple is his favorite, or like favorite, or if not favorite, one of his favorite, like top 3 or 4 or whatever. Great choice, awesome album. They did the stuff that Led Zeppelin did. They elongated the songs live, and they jammed on them, and basically became like heavy metal jam bands, which I think that would be I would love to do that with one of my bands. But anyways, great choice. Richard Blackmore, enough said. So, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. He's always said that was a great album to him. I think he got Mike Klink who produced that album to produce Justice because of Appetite for Destruction, and then Megadeth stole the idea on Rust in Peace of using that producer. Great album. It's timeless. There's nothing more that needs to be said about that. Bob Marley, Babylon by Bus. I'm like, why Bob Marley again? I don't know, it's weird. Now we get into the more trendy stuff of the time. And of course, Lars Ulrich was always trendy. I remember him talking about his favorite albums. He always picked like one hair metal album that he knew that the hardcore fan base would hate back in the late 80s, and then by this time he's picking all this stuff that's trendy as hell. He's a trend hopper. Oasis, definitely, maybe. I know this is one of his favorite bands, but yeah, it's pretty funny. But at least it's his favorite. I don't think these other things. I don't think these other guys pick their favorite. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think James might be closer, but I don't know. It just doesn't. Something's not right, you know, about this list. It just seems very calculated and weird. Maybe they had to pick these. They can't pick metal. Oh, you have to pick non-metal albums that you like. You can pick like one or two, but we can't have more than 2 or 3 in the list, you know, or something like that. Or the record company told them to answer it that way or something. Who knows? Some kind of monster revealed a lot of stuff about the band. So it's pretty funny. So the next one is Red Hot Chili Peppers' Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Now, that's their last album I can deal with, but it's like, yeah, okay, that's pretty trendy, bro. You know? But it gets even worse. Now, I kind of grew up with this, hearing this in the background from, you know, some relatives and stuff. U2 Octoon Baby. It's not the worst album in the world, but it's like, okay, this is like pop. You're talking about pop rock. Now, it's not like the worst. They play stadiums, you know. It's not the worst album in the world, but, you know, it's from a member of a band called Metallica. It's a little bit like The Verve, you know, one of those Britpop bands, urban hymns. So I don't think I've ever heard that. I don't know. So that's the list of albums from this list. List of albums from this list, yeah. List of albums that supposedly these guys were listening to at the time, or their favorite albums or whatever. So it's pretty funny. So there's something missing. So I'm gonna talk about this. This is a phenomenon. Now let's take out Guns N' Roses. Okay, let's not say that they're metal in this this analysis I'm about to do. They're not metal, right? Okay. Also, Misfits are not metal, and I'm not saying that, you know, they don't have metal tendencies, either of those bands. I'm just putting this out there. I'm not saying that they're metal, I'm not saying that they're not metal, like, adjacent or whatever you want to call it. Guns N' Roses are considered metal, whatever. But you notice this trend. I mean, I guess you could count, and let's count Alice in Chains just for, you know, we could maybe count that as metal. There is nothing on this list from any kind of metal band past 1983. Not one album. So you have Merciful Fate Melissa, which came out in '83. Force It, I think, was 76 or 77, I believe. Maybe it's a little earlier than that. I think it was 76 or 77. Thin Lizzy, I don't know if that's a box set or what. I'm going to have to look that up. I think they do have a Thin Lizzy self-titled. I'm a little bit rough on my Thin Lizzy knowledge. I do like a lot of their albums, but I probably should know more. I believe they did have a self-titled album. It's like came out in the early 70s. But I also think there was a box set called Thin Lizzy as well. So I'm thinking, I don't know if he means that the album, you know, Thin Lizzy, I wouldn't think that would be his favorite, because that was a little bit like the Rush first album. Like it was showing a potential, but it wasn't like, you know, it's like picking the first Rush album if you're a big Rush fan or something. So I don't know. That's why I'm saying that. I know there was a box set. I almost bought it, actually. So we have Alice in Chains' Dirt. Let's just hypothetically call that a metal album. That's the only one past 83 on this list. And you had so many great albums that were coming out in the 90s. You know, I could look at my actual albums over here. You know, Dillinger Escape Plan. Well, that came out, I think, the following year. Calculating Infinity. I'm just picking random ones. You know, X Japan. I'm just looking at a lot of my albums. Amorphous, Emperor, Paradise Lost, Strapping Young Lad, Devin Townsend, Symphony X, Dream Theater, even, you know, I don't know, Ulver, Opeth, Iced Earth. You know, you had, I mean, it was a renaissance of metal going on in Europe, and yet these guys who call themselves Metallica have no knowledge of any of the really great stuff. And most of these albums are actually older, except for Mr. Trend Hopper down here. You know, most of these albums are actually older. I think even like I think Opus Dei is early 90s, if I can recall. Maybe it's a later one. Tom Waits, it's pretty funny they all picked Tom Waits for some weird reason, except for Lars. Lars had to be contrarian there, but not anywhere else. No, I think Lars's is probably closest to actual favorites that he would say. Like he said, because he said these over, like some of these he repeated himself, but these other ones don't seem like it at all. And I don't know why Jason Newsted is the only one to pick Black Sabbath. That's ridiculous. You would have thought that James Hetfield would have picked Black Sabbath like top notch, like Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath is number one, or Master Realities right here, and then second one might be these, and then Kirk Hammett picking Melissa is like the only. I think that, like I said, these first two are cooler in a way, because like at least like Reverend Horde and Heat, it's not like MTV. It wasn't at 98. Like maybe they were on 120 minutes, and maybe they were on late at night or something, but they weren't like played constantly or something like Octoon Baby was, in the early 90s. And that was what's weird about these is like some of them are like early, like some of these are like early 90s. I don't think I think Oasis and Verve are the latest ones, which is weird too. It's just like a really strange list. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. Actually, I do get it. It's Metallica being calculated and selling out to being open-minded alternative rockers, or whatever they call them. They thought of themselves at that point. They have to be on the fence about all these things and stuff. And the fact that they don't pick like actual metal, even like stuff like, I'm trying to think of stuff like Mastodon wasn't really established at that point, as far as I remember. I don't think so. But it's like there's so many thousands of metal bands that they could have picked, but obviously they weren't going for the metal thing at the time. So of course you're gonna say, oh, we like Tom Waits, that's really heavy stuff. The down picking of Tom Waits on that album, is somewhat, he uses the Mesa Boogie Mark IV, on that album, like those chugs, man. Oh my God, it's not, it's like, no, they were doing it Till It Sleeps and shit like that. So it's kind of ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with like growing as a musician. I would have no problem with this list if it's like, okay, I'm just gonna give my like list of this hypothetical Metallica thing. Like, okay, I like even like the most trendy Satyricon. Not even Nemesis Divina. What was the one after? Rebel Extravaganza. Okay, that's one of my favorite new albums that came out, or whatever. It's not one of my favorites, but I'm just saying. Oh, maybe let's just go with Nemesis Divina. Say Nemesis Divina. Okay, that's down here. Melissa. Okay, Paradise Lost, Icon or something. They sound a lot like old Metallica. Like in a way, they were kind of a continuation, in my opinion. Sentenced, Amorphous. Okay, like let's say there were like three of the, like those three: Sentenced, Amorphous, Paradise Lost. For some reason, they pick Iron Maiden, Melissa, Robert Johnson, Miles Davis, David Bowie, and 9 Inch Nails or something, Or go back down here, you have Black Sabbath, Diamond Head, Merciful Fate, Misfits, and then the rest is the same. Or down here, this is the worst. To me, the Jason Newsted one is almost the worst one. It's like, what the hell? Hardly, even Lars Ulrich, at least there's like crunch, like metal crunch. Guns N' Roses, Deep Purple, Alice in Chains. Very traditional, like stuff. Like down here is just an awful part, but like I don't care. Like, okay, so the worst ones are probably Octoon. I'm gonna say the worst ones now. I don't like I just don't like. I'm not a reggae guy. I don't hate it, but like I'd say that's the Bob Marley. Them picking Bob Marley. What the hell? Octoon Baby. Maybe that was like 98. Reggae must have been like popular, reggaeton or something. What a bunch of fucking tools. So half of them pick Bob Marley. Why? Lauryn Hill is pretty funny too. This nothing past 83 for metal other than Alice in Chains on this list. It's pathetic. There were so many good albums. They were influenced by some of these albums. They were influenced by some of the metal albums that came out in the 80s and 90s. They said it. They said it themselves. Oh yeah, I've been listening to like Lars said he loved Peace Cells. You know, I'm sure there. I'm probably they. There's one thing missing. Glenn Danzig. They were wearing all these Misfits and Danzig and Sam Hain shirts in the 80s. They had no mention. I mean, American Psycho, but that's not even with Danzig. That's the funny thing. No Danzig. Like, Danzig 1. I know that James Hetfield has picked Danzig 1 as one of his favorite albums of all time. He was on it, too, but still, he's always picked that. He's always picked that. And then no Scorpions with Kirk Hammett. He's always said Uli John Roth and, you know, Michael Schenker. I mean, there's Michael Schenker at least, but no Scorpions. It's just, this list is just so, it's so nonsense. I think it was just stuff they were listening to at the time, but then it just kind of got jumbled into whatever. It's just, and it's sickening. So this is the death of metal here. Very little metal. You water it down. No metal. Okay, there's Alice in Chains, AC/DC, debatably, you know, Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses maybe. Okay, Thin Lizzy, Led Zeppelin, Laibach. No, well, Laibach's good. I think Laibach's really good, but it doesn't mean they're metal. They might have some metal guitars later on or something. So let's take that out. UFO, Merciful Fate. That's, unless one counts Robert Johnson as kind of the forerunner of metal because he talked about the devil and stuff and his blues and what. I don't know, I guess. But yeah, there's like 5 metal albums out of like, how many albums is this? 40 albums? It's pathetic. They're supposed to be a metal band, thrash metal band, and then they came back and said, then they, you know, 10 years later, they said, oh yeah, we're metal. Oh yeah, I'm gonna wear these, like, this battle jacket with like Angel Witch patch on it and stuff. So fake, so trendy, and so dumb. I hate it. It just makes me so mad. But it is funny, you know, to make fun of, at least. So yeah, I don't think this list is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life in a way, but it was to be expected. Some of these, I mean, it's bizarre. I don't know what going through their mind to put all these like cool jazz Miles Davis albums on there. I mean, that's cool, you know, but I don't see why they all would put Miles Davis like Kind of Blue on their thing. Like, what the hell is this? It's just so weird. And like I said, that, you know, Kirk and James's is kind of like, it's not normal, but it's like better. And James is kind of like, the James one is the best one because it doesn't seem like it is calculated. Like, it seems like his evolution more than these other guys, like, in a certain way. Like, I can excuse it, I guess, because he's like this, like, this rockabilly, like, redneck, like, hot rod driving, tattoo, like, sideburns, kind of, you know, Reverend Horton Heat or Rocket from the Crypt, or, you know, the Western thing. You know, I could see that with James Hetfield. He's in a Western now, actually. So I could see James's list being somewhat legitimate, and even, I dare say, little guy Kirk Hammett. Kirk Hammett, Kind of Blue, Blue Train, Low, Lauryn Hill, Jason Newsted. And like Lars's list just sucks. Like, it's just terrible. Anyways, just like and comment on my video and just prepare for the cringe with this one. This is just so hilarious, this list. I want to find more stuff. This is the kind of stuff I've been looking for a long time. I'm finally starting to see this kind of stuff because I'm looking for articles about this stuff. If anybody has magazines that talks about, like, Rob Halford's infamous, like, Metal is Dead statement in, I think, 98, send it to me, or let me know where it is, because this list is so awesomely not timely, but dated. That's what I was trying to say. Anyways, that's about all.